In the early 1990s, one of the most famous businessmen in America was walking down a New York street when he passed a homeless man. He turned to the person beside him and said something strange. "That man is worth $900 million more than me." He wasn't joking. On paper, Donald Trump, the man whose name was plastered in gold across Manhattan, was nearly $1 billion in the red. The empire was collapsing, the banks were circling, and yet, a decade later, that same name would be worth more than ever. This is the business story of how it was built, how it nearly vanished, and the one move that brought it back. No politics, just the deal making. By the end, you'll understand the single lesson behind the entire comeback. The story doesn't start with Donald. It starts with his father, Fred Trump, a hard-nosed real estate developer who built thousands of apartments across Brooklyn and Queens. That was the family business Donald grew up inside. But Donald wanted something his father never chased: Manhattan, the glamour, the skyline. In the 1970s, he took the reins of the family company, renamed it the Trump Organization, and set his sights across the river, on the island where the real money and the real fame lived. His first big Manhattan move was a gamble, a crumbling old hotel next to Grand Central. He partnered with the Hyatt chain, secured a massive property tax break from a struggling city, and reopened it in 1980 as the Grand Hyatt. It worked. Then came the statement piece. Trump Tower opened in 1983 on Fifth Avenue, pink marble, a waterfall, luxury apartments. It wasn't just a building, it was a brand launch. For the first time, the name Trump meant something: wealth, excess, winning. That brand would later save his life. But first, it nearly destroyed him. Flush with success, Trump moved into casinos. Atlantic City, Trump Plaza, Trump Castle, and the crown jewel, the Trump Taj Mahal, opened in 1990 as the largest casino in the world. But there was a catch buried in the foundation. To build and buy all of it, he had borrowed enormous sums, much of it in high-interest junk bonds. The Taj alone needed to pull in over $1 million a day just to cover its debt. 3 casinos in one city were now competing against each other, and all of them were drowning in interest payments. He had built an empire, but he had built it on borrowed money. And in business, leverage cuts both ways. Then the economy turned. A recession hit, real estate values dropped, and the casino revenue couldn't keep up. In 1991, the Taj Mahal filed for bankruptcy, the first of several corporate bankruptcies across his casino and hotel businesses over the years. By some accounts, Trump was personally on the hook for roughly $900 million, debts he had personally guaranteed. He was, on paper, worth less than nothing. But here's the twist most people don't know: the banks didn't pull the plug. And why they didn't is the real lesson of this whole story. The banks lead the man. If they forced him into liquidation, they would seize half-built casinos in a crashing market and recover pennies. But if they kept him afloat, kept the name on the buildings, the assets were worth more. His brand had become collateral. So they restructured his debt, put him on an allowance, and let him climb out. And climbing out is where he changed the entire game. The old model was own and build, capital heavy, debt heavy, the thing that nearly killed him. The new model was license the name. Let other developers put up the money and the risk. He would sell them the word Trump on the door and collect a fee. Asset light, low risk, pure brand leverage. Then came the multiplier. In 2004, a reality show called The Apprentice put him on primetime television as the archetypal American boss. Overnight, the brand wasn't just alive, it was bigger than the buildings ever made it. And every license was suddenly worth more. So, what's the takeaway? The business one? 2 things. First, debt is a tool that can build an empire or bury you, and the line between the two is thinner than it looks. The same leverage that raised the towers nearly sank him. second, and bigger. His most valuable asset was never a building, it was the name. A brand can survive a bankruptcy that concrete and debt cannot. When everything else was underwater, the name was the one thing worth saving, and it's what he rebuilt everything else on top of. Love the man or not, and this channel takes no side. The business arc is undeniable. Build, over-leverage, collapse, and reinvent around the one asset that couldn't be repossessed. The brand. If you want more stories of how empires are built, broken, and rebuilt, subscribe to Fund the Build and tell me in the comments. Was his comeback genius or just a lucky break the banks handed him? I read every reply.